Hiram has been banned.
Welcome to Rules of Villainy episode 40, where three new trading card game players quest and challenge their way to the competitive top tables and discuss their opinions on Disney Lorcana. We'll be discussing the latest news in Lorcana, answering your questions, and going over the latest developments in the metagame. I'm Villain Vince, as always, joined by my two friends, Villain Andy, and the mayor of Lorcana himself, Brad. How's it going tonight, gentlemen?
Not good.
Feel really good, man.
No, not good.
No?
How can you feel good on such a somber day? Such a mournful.
What's somber?
day.
Well, I mean, you know.
I just woke up from a nap.
I don't
What
want
I
to talk
missed?
about it, Vince. I don't want to talk about it. It hurts too much.
Oh my god. Something
Um,
something major happened apparently. Do we need to have a vigil?
It's
I
probably.
don't know. Maybe we need to all wear black and have a
Yeah.
potential funeral.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't know. It's a very down. We had that like pumped up intro, and now it's somber.
Pour one out.
But,
And he poured one out.
Pour one out.
but I guess we can get into Underworld news. There's really not any news. I don't know that there's been any news in the world of Lorcana lately.
There has been actually. I know why you guys are upset. The Citizens of Lorcana podcast ended.
Yeah.
I
That's
forgot
true.
to mention it last week.
True, that's true. I did forget about. The fact that they did their final episode. It's really kind of sad. They've been great.
I think
we were on their show.
Yep, that's why I wanted to shout them out. I appreciate, the platform they gave us. They reached out to us really early in our podcasting career here for Lorcana, and so appreciative of them. I mean, James and Jared over there are fantastic. We had a great story with James playing a local kid here in the last chance qualifiers there at the North American Continentals. Nothing but best wishes to them. Jared's still active on Twitter. I'm sure James is still going to be active in the competitive community. I mean, I was just in Jared's DMs the other day talking about Severance. He just blitzed through both seasons of Severance.
I still haven't seen that
You
show.
have to watch it. It's absolutely incredible. But I wanted to give them a shout out.
Have you been watching The White Lotus?
No, I haven't watched it since season 1 because season 1 was like a big bait and switch for me. Like the premise of the first episode was so good of like, okay, we're going to show you a dead body and then give you 10 episodes to try and make you figure out who it was. And it just turned into this whole like satire comedy that I wasn't prepared for. I thought it was going to be like a mystery. By the end of the first season, I didn't care who was in the box. You know, it was
Andy's over here like, guys, I thought this was a Lorcana podcast.
I know.
Welcome to
He's still hurting
Reels
from
of
the other
Villainy.
Yeah.
Also, but
villainous
Andy,
movie
I think
podcast.
we've got some news that we're on Pandora.
Yeah, we're on Pandora now.
I have circa 2011 there.
It's apparently they absorbed like a couple other podcast platforms. So
Did they really? Wow. Well, good for them. Good for them.
Stitcher?
I'm glad to
Is
see
that what
them
it's
still. I'm glad to see them still trucking along.
Emily is still huge into Pandora. Like she has a playlist that is built out for years to come. You turn on her playlist, it turn on anything from the 90s pop to like 2000s rap. Like it's just a smorgasbord of. I'm like, what is this playlist? She's like, don't ask. It's everything I've liked for all of these years.
Was she
the whole
subscribed to Pandora's so she doesn't get the ads, or does she?
I don't know.
Because I mean, that's honestly like why I like dipped out and went to Spotify.
Yeah.
You know, I got that like student account, and then I never looked back.
I feel like it would be a fun slice of life to go log back into Pandora and see my liked list and see where it started and where it stopped, because it's just going to be a small, sample of the music that I listened to that just abruptly ended on that platform. I'd be curious to see that.
We're really going to age myself here. Is that what I would really love to log back into if it was possible? Is MySpace to see my top friends list.
That would be something.
For those of you who don't know that are potentially too young, MySpace was the thing before I was about to say Facebook, but even Facebook is like gone. So it was like the TikTok of my era.
Oh yeah, you could put speaking of music, you could put a song on your profile that represented your mood of the time or what the mood you wanted to present on your profile.
And Tom was friends with us all.
Yeah, I miss Tom, man. Wonder what he's up to.
Good days.
Did either of you guys, while we're on that real quick, one quick question, did either of you guys have a couples MySpace?
No.
Me neither. All right, anyway, moving on.
No, for anyone who is still listening, because clearly we've lost all Gen Zers, probably most millennials. We lost all the Lorcana players a while back when we just became like this random Netflix podcast. Now we're just like over here discussing our last .fm accounts, and it's just like, yikes.
But with that, let's move on to Constituents Corner.
All right, I'm going to actually dig deep into the mailbag.
We skipped the main headline, Vince.
Skipped what? What headline? What are you talking about?
We should talk about it in Underworld news before we go into the main segment.
I look seriously, like I've been out of the loop for a while. What happened?
Hiram, Flaversham, and Fortisphere are banned, sir, from competitive play.
Banned? Are you kidding me?
Is that
you're joking? This is an April Fool's
we're joking,
joke, right?
Yeah, on April 9th, technically probably the 11th.
Ban. Come on,
this is
Ravensburger did not ban.
Vince played with them
Hiram,
today in
Flaversham, Toymaker, and Fortis. Yeah, I just played with them tonight.
And now it's going to click in his head why he was dragged out of the store kicking and screaming when they told him he was disqualified and never welcome back. See, that's why, you got to stay up and up on your Lorcana news. If you had been subscribed and ring the bell on our channel, the mayor
would I have
broke
learned something?
Yeah, the mayor broke the news on our channel.
Did the mayor break the news
He did.
On our account?
Yeah, on all of Disney Lorcana.
He took one for us. He took one for the community too, because he was saying we got a few of the thumbs downs on that
just
video.
One. Our first video in over a month, we got a dislike. And
it's
by
not
the one
him,
person
it's for Hiram.
It's for Hiram. Yeah, the one person in all of Disney Lorcana competitive scene who dislikes that news, disliked that video. So
no, I'm not gonna lie. I came very close to disliking our own video for that particular thing, but then I was like, I can't do that. I can't do that. That's not how this works. I can't dislike our own account's video. So I gave it an uplike, but I do dislike this news. But yes, Ravensburger announced yesterday that they are banning officially the first ban in the game of Disney Lorcana. We could argue about Bucky. I hear you all. I hear you. I hear your screams and your cheers and your jeers. But this is the first official ban on the ban list of Hiram, Flaversham, Toymaker, and Fortisphere.
It's wild.
Poor Hiram.
Like we've had months, weeks, and I guess months of people wanting something like that, or talking about bans of different cards throughout the game, cards that have been problematic. And I didn't think.
You mean like that we were 24 months almost, basically. Like how many months has the game been out?
Well, I don't think Hiram was as big of a problem until more and more sets came out, right? Well, I don't know. That's not.
You're right.
They gave more solutions
to
him.
Certainly.
But like the ban Hiram got more and more progressive as more and more sets came out, even though they kept giving different deck solutions to him. And I didn't see a ban ever coming. I didn't think that they were going to pull the trigger on that. With as much as they did to Bucky to make him still a card and not, of course, not playable in the format and the way that he was before, I didn't think they would outright ban anything for a while, if at all. And so it kind of came out of nowhere. And when it was shared, speaking of Citizens of Lorcana, the first place I saw it was James on there sharing it, and I was like,
that's how I saw it too at first.
Is this real? Like what? And nobody in the other Discords were talking about it yet.
Is this real life?
They had linked to the Ravensburger page, and so you could go to Ravensburger directly to see that it was legit. Okay, so I'll say a few things. One is, on the subject of like the ban. I think the reason why they didn't go the errata route is because of how much criticism was levied on the Bucky errata. Right. And like they like did the defense on that, which is like normally we would ban, but we don't want to ban this card and for yada 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 reasons. And so I think what they didn't want is for this to be like another errata when they could say, it's like, well, to go through that whole rigmarole and stuff, because then you end up in a situation. It's like, okay, well then when does a card just get banned, right? Like when do you make the like, because you could always do that. You could always just errata a card and never ban it outright, right? Like you could just always change the card up.
The problem with that, the production of the paper and everything to do that is so much harder in real, paper play than it is digitally, right? You saw how long it took them to just roll out new Bucky. Like, and that was just a buy a box promo.
It was a buy $150 unplayable Bucky card. No, that was terrible.
But well, also it's in all the packs. I assume it's in all of the Rise of the Floodborn packs now that you get in the Lilo boxes or anything that's been. We've seen them be popped back up in the stores now. So
I bought Floodborn the other day from my Target that weren't there last week,
Buckies?
And they were regular Buckies.
They were the old Buckies.
On Kirsten, she got mad at me. Yeah, no,
how it works.
So this is all old stock that's going around.
My question to both of you though is, how do you feel? So we're going to talk a lot about this in this episode with the questions and the main segment. But the real question I have for you is, how do you feel about the announcement of the timing, that it was banned and it was an immediate ban?
Meh. I mean,
I think it's fine.
I understand. Like, it seems like it would be a courtesy, right? There are, there are players who are going to League that night that like are now in this awkward spot where it can potentially brew this like you're not allowed to play, this sort of negative discourse between people where someone's like, oh, you didn't know you're not allowed to play that, or someone shows up and now they're not allowed to play because they don't have a deck that is legal apparently, or or vice versa, right? Someone is playing and saying, hey, you're not allowed to play with that, and gets mad and leaves, and now you're upset. I don't know. It seems like a common courtesy to have just given us a little bit more warning. And
I agree.
But it doesn't really change much, right? Mm-hmm. There's no, I don't really care about the secondary market or the price of any of these cards or whatever. You made the decision to buy them at the price that they were. And it is what it is. You have your cards, but like, I don't really care. For me, the biggest problem is like the somewhat lack of transparency. I know that Steve did the whole like interview thing and he answered a lot of these questions. A lot of that stuff was the same answers, and for me, I just don't understand. It seemed very much like in just the 3 weeks that we saw of this meta that it was evolving. Immediately, Sapphire Steel was like, oh my goodness, it's the problem. But then Ruby Sapphire quickly became the problem instead. And we saw that topping all the tournaments. And then, we saw even decks like Chernadogs and Oops All Diablos and even Amber Steel Songs and stuff make these comebacks. And the other variants, even non-Hiram variants that still utilize the Fortisphere and stuff, that just, were popping up in the meta. And they had this decision made at least a week before it was announced to all of us, because they sat down and talked with that news, or that
Polygon.
Polygon, the news publication. I say news publication, but it makes it feel like it's being printed out on paper. Get your paper here. But so 3 weeks they had to look at this. So, but ultimately, I'm here to play Lorcana. I agree with the decision Ravensburger makes. I understand that they have knowledge that we don't about cards that are coming in the future, about how answers may not exist. Not just for decks like the Sapphire Steel that people are complaining about, but Hiram being gone nerfs Ruby Sapphire a lot. So maybe that was going to be a problem in a set to come, or
I'm going to be honest with you. I don't love that argument a lot. Like, maybe there aren't answers in the future because, well, then wait. Like, the meta hasn't evolved, then ban it later. Like, if it's a problem later on and stuff, at least, or you could just say we're going to ban these cards at the end of this set because next set they're going to be. I will say, I will take a pretty strong stance that I am very, very disappointed. And I'm particularly unhappy with the timing framing of this. For all of Bucky's problems, at least and stuff, they gave folks time to adapt to a
DLCs going on and stuff.
Right. They gave them time up to, Toronto was the next one because Bucky was dominant in Chicago, and they announced the errata of Bucky in between Chicago and Toronto. So they gave people enough notice.
No, that's not how they did it. They did the errata before Dallas.
But I
don't remember the order of events.
In Dallas,
Bucky was prominent in
Toronto.
That's right. Okay, sure.
So you could, but you knew that,
right?
I mean, yeah.
So you had a long time frame.
But the point was
that's where I want to.
There was these.
That's where I want
tournaments that people needed to know about.
Official ones.
Yes, people had bought tickets to Toronto. They needed to know the meta they were playing on as soon as possible.
Yeah, I'm just sorry. I don't think as a game you come out and say today we've made this decision and now this card is no longer playable in core constructed. I'm honestly I think it's.
So what if they said it's not playable next week? How's that?
I think you give folks time. I think I think you would say
for what?
Do you
If
need
it's
to sit down with your Hirams and
you give folks time.
How you felt,
absorb the knowledge. You give folks time. Well, I mean, what was the rush? What you talk about no events? What's the rush to ban it to today?
That's the Lorcana conspiracy theory.
Great. Worlds. I will tell you what, if Worlds is coming, if they announce Worlds tomorrow, then maybe I would change my mind about that. But the fact that we don't have that as a date, I'm sorry. Everybody can go wear their tinfoil hats when it comes to
the players
the World.
Though. The players have the dates of Worlds.
Allegedly.
It's pretty solid source, I thought. I thought there was multiple confirmations on that.
Okay, but here's the thing. If the players have the dates, then you could just tell the players, hey, we're banning these two cards.
No. That changes the landscape of everything. And so Kirsten and I actually talked about this, and she said something along the lines of, I wonder if they even got these pro players' opinions on it. And the answer is most definitely not. If they told the top 28 players or whatever in the world of Lorcana information about how the game was going to change in the very near future, and they had that that's insider trading basically, because now they're able to go to these 5K, 10Ks with having already been testing for weeks in advance. It's like getting card knowledge earlier. But
you're talking about it on an even playing field. I don't buy that argument about manipulation or any of that stuff.
Because you're right. They're on an even playing field at World, but it's the rest of the world that they now can. Imagine if there's a 10K tournament that's happening this weekend, and Zan and world class WCC team knew about this ban for 2 weeks coming. And now they've been able to test all of these post-Hiram Fortisphere decks ahead of, and now they're playing in a 10K event. Sure, that's not like an official Lorcana tournament, but that really, really rattles the community quite a bit, when competitive community, when you're basically giving privileged information to people who have qualified for an event like that. That's
I mean, fair enough on the particular competition side of things. My view on this is they should have given more than just we're banning it today. It's no longer being a competitive play. I think you give 2 weeks.
I don't think it matters at all, because there's no official event right now. And I talked to people from TCS.
You can't have it both ways. You can't have it both ways. You can't say that it doesn't matter but it does matter if you give folks the insider information. So what is it? Does it matter or does it not matter?
Well, no, the insider information is about some people learning it earlier than other people. When it matters is a matter of like time to change. I do think it would be a courtesy to have this information, not because of like a feelings thing with your Hiram to get to go play them one last hurrah, but for people who, I don't want to say like content creators, but tournament organizers and stuff. These are, and players who are going to put, imagine again, you are going to play a tournament this weekend. It is like annoying to to like have to all of a sudden change what you're doing right on the go. That is
Sorry, Brad. I keep interrupting you. Please.
That's okay. I'm gonna get overpowered for my opinion on this anyway, because I'm on the completely opposite side. So, I'm good. We can talk about that in the main segment.
No, I mean, like,
Sure.
Do you want?
You can
think
do your
they should
opinion.
have
I'm sorry.
earlier
I
at
definitely
night? Do you
like
have
over
anything else to
interrupted
add?
you. And I don't
Yeah,
want you to be upset,
I mean,
man.
my
I'm
moment. I
sorry.
feel like my windows have closed because I was going to comment on a lot of things Andy has said. Where like I've talked to people from the collector store last night. They had half as many people last night, and I mean, when we talk about the leagues and this ban going into effect, it's like they had 5 people last night, and they all got together. Like, do you care? Like, so if you want to give them enough time to set something up, I understand that argument, but it's also just it's in the collector stores. It's a bad example because it's a paid league, so you want to have, it's pack per win, but it is one of those things where it's like you want to play by the rules that Ravensburger set, but being that it's 5 people, they're like, yeah, we don't care. We know that it just happened today, but given the end of the week, that give you a few days to try something else and whatever for just general league play that most places around here don't have any cost associated with doing that. We can speculate that, given some of the comments that Steve said in the Discord yesterday in the Q&A, that the World's announcement's probably right around the corner, based on one of the comments he said. I linked it in our Discord. Don't remember it word for word. I should have pulled it up while you guys were talking about how they wanted to make sure they didn't feel like this was a fair card, or both these were fair cards to have at Worlds. So that tells me that Worlds is coming. Again, speculation. We don't know. I think the players probably know what the date is. But it's one of those things. There's no official event. They did it on a Tuesday, so like whether or not they say they're banning it on this Tuesday or next Tuesday, if they did say it was next Tuesday, then whatever the meta report is for this weekend's tournaments that happen don't matter because they're all going to have Hiram in it. So to say it's a ban effective immediately means that people have time, 5 days to adjust their deck for whatever tournament they're playing that's not official, and begin the new cycle of how to build their deck. So I think it's fair. I don't know why you would ever say that the deck is going, these cards are going to be banned, but we're going to do it in 2 weeks. And it's like, so what do we do for 2 weeks? Just play the card out because we can, or
that's what we do with Bucky. We played a whole DLC out, right? And
but we had the DLCs,
right? And so that's why I said it's just
thing.
a courtesy, right? They have to do it when there's these official DLCs and stuff because like that it's their tournaments and stuff. But it would be a nice courtesy. I mean, we're working on, collaborations and stuff. Kirsten and I had deck test Tuesday that we then had to like switch a bunch of our decks. Obviously first world problems. Like I'm not trying to complain about that aspect of it, but that would have been nice, right? That would have been a nice courtesy to have had some time to do it. But at the same time, I think everything we've all sort of said here makes sense in that we needed to tell the people playing in Worlds what they were going to be playing at Worlds as soon as possible. And if that means telling them that the ban, and we can't tell them that the ban's happening and not tell us, so they tell the whole world and they rip the Band-Aid off. And I
think by the end of next week we might know when Worlds is. Like seriously, I feel like they're
gonna
like the
Worlds is gonna be before the next set drops. Even
you think the Worlds is going to be before June?
No, maybe not. But I mean,
or wait, the next set drops the first weekend in May. So yeah, it would have to be next month. Or is it first weekend in June? Oh yeah, because all of May is the
set champ.
The set champ. So Yeah, I think it's going to be a summer thing. I've been thinking for a while it's going to be July or August. July is going to be interesting because just it's the middle of summer and a lot of people take their Disney vacations and everything then. But I feel like an event like of this caliber seems like a mid-year kind of thing. I don't know if everybody's going to get caught up. I don't know anything at all, but it seems like if it's not July or it's probably I was leaning toward July, but maybe September. But I feel like that announcement is coming. It gives everybody 2 to 3 months to plan to be there. And it makes sense that the players do know. It's baffling to me. I mean, that's great that if the players do know and it hasn't leaked. But
players have
I
to know
think at
because
that
of
point,
visa reasons and stuff. Some
yeah, I just think that I honestly I think it really depends on what they want the event to be. Like, do they want it to be an event that a whole bunch of people come to celebrate Lorcana?
They've said that.
But I get that. I get that. But what I'm saying is that I think that it depends on when it is. Because if you're saying that that's what they're saying it's going to be, then I think we're probably looking past summer. Because I think people need time to plan to go to Worlds. I don't think you can have it. I don't think you could drop it last minute and expect, a whole bunch of folks
I'd be
to
curious
try to
to know the numbers between
rearrange it.
when they announced DLCs and when the first DLC happened. It was like a month, right?
Yeah,
it was short.
It was short.
It was short, but ultimately, the thing is what I think we saw is the other one is DLCs were certainly better prepared later on in the year, and I think also people could make better plans. I think what I'll say is I think it's easy when you're looking at the first one, everybody's really hyped about it and stuff. I don't know. I feel like Worlds is one of those things that's been dragged on for so long. We know it's coming and stuff. And it's and I put myself in this is I get consistently asked, I tell my boss, I'm are you going to take any vacation this year? And it's yes. When? I have no idea. At some point when I get the dates.
Remember when we thought it was last month?
Yeah. And I just think at a certain point, you've got to be able to if you want this to be well attended for casual folks, you have to give folks, I think, a pretty decent knowledge.
And I think they're making strides to do it as well. They got 2 new hires and they're starting to communicate things. In the past week, we've gotten so much communication, so much more. I mean, anything is better than what we've gotten for a while, right? So, it feels like we're on a path of knowledge and
wisdom.
Yeah,
okay.
I need my paddles to travel.
Lorcana conspiracy theory number 2, putting on the tinfoil hat.
Let's hear it.
They are afraid of how many people are going to be at Worlds. And so the short notice on Worlds, you're right, will be inconvenient for some. Oh, that's so unfortunate that we had to announce Worlds. We had these dates booked, but we couldn't figure everything out. And so we finally told you, but it's only in a month from now. And that's a shame that you guys can't. It's the destination wedding. It's the destination wedding of Lorcana tournaments that they are worried that they're going to have 100,000 people who want to come to, this event. And maybe that's a gross exaggeration, but they're going to have too many. And so they're you know what? We don't need a bajillion, we'll just, put it out there. People will come. If we build it, they will come.
I think that's a good conspiracy. So I think in their hearts, Ravensburger wants everybody to enjoy this game, and as well, and Disney wants to do as much as they can with it. I hope
the room, and the staff, and the budget, and the time. Right.
That makes sense because one of the things that started because this is all of our first TCGs, and I remember back when the first Atlanta was announced. It was announced for 512 capacity players, and one of the locals at the collector store, CJ, who doesn't play anymore. I miss that guy. I remember him assuring me at dinner one night after League that it's not going to cap. None of these things ever cap. Because he plays so much Magic, so much Yu-Gi-Oh, and I was it's not going to cap. It's his first TCG or whatever. And I'm like, you don't understand. You don't understand the power of the mouse. People love. There's so many people playing this game because they love the IP of Disney, and they're all going to want to do this first event. And then we saw in Atlanta the I don't want to say mess, but like just how wild it was because
honestly, they probably should have kept it capped at 512 in
they had
retrospect.
over 2,000 people, and I think did they change venues, or was like all this stuff changed to accommodate all these people who wanted to be there? We were underneath MomoCon, like an anime con that was in the same convention center. We were sharing space with it, and we had 2,000 people playing in a tournament that day, and then let alone all the additional people playing the side events and stuff, right? So it's just wild that like how I lost my point here.
No,
but
I get what you're saying.
like,
And honestly, I get Andy's conspiracy. I think ultimately though, like I don't remember which one of you just said it just a few minutes ago, but I think the one problem for doing it so late is you then, which it's already going to be, I think, a heavy American, like United States audience, as I think if you give folks almost no time, it's going to be very, very difficult for folks coming from outside the United States to make it because of visa issues. And so I think that would be really, really, so I think I would hope at least that Ravensburger wouldn't want to leave out like our European or Australian or even like, Asian Lorcana folks in Japan and China.
They get the starter decks early, all right?
Okay.
They get to hang out with the Ravensburger crew. We get to go to Worlds, all right? You win some, you lose some, okay? See you at the next LCCC, all right?
And what happens when they get when it's with turnarounds fair play and we get like 2 weeks notice it's going to be in Paris, y'all, for the next Worlds.
That's fine. I can speak French. Bonjour.
Well, with that, let's move on.
There goes
to,
Andy with like always. Yeah, I'm actually digging deep into the mailbag tonight because I've been a bad mayor and only been paying the most attention to YouTube. And I got an email the other day saying I had unanswered comments on our Spotify channel that I don't often check. So I wanted to shout out Keith Childs. He's commented on a few of our videos. One of them to correct me that I shamelessly got the fact that Scar has a Floodborn that I mistakenly said he doesn't have a Floodborn yet in one of the episodes, and that Alice from set 2 is not Floodborn either, and my plans to shift the Ward Alice into the big one, the support Alice. So I want to shout what's
Didn't
that?
you shout this out already? Didn't you say this last?
No,
live.
I did, but we weren't live for the bracket. Yeah.
Oh, this is at the beginning before I hit the live button by accident?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So a little inside baseball to last week's listeners. The reason we were 10 minutes late for our live stream is because we started the podcast without clicking the button to go live. So I'm bringing this up again, and these guys are confused, but it's all good. Then one question that Keith did ask on an even further back video is why was Gantu labeled in set 1 a villain, but he's not in the rest of the video or the rest of the cards? And I get my opportunity to correct Keith and say Gantu was not a villain on that card either. We just treat him as our main villain here at Rules of Villainy. So
Gantu's never been a villain?
Not in Disney Lorcana, no. Even on our collaboration with Katie, when we wanted to put Gantu on the tier list of Disney villains, he was not labeled as a villain, so we had to exclude him from that. But in our hearts, he is a villain.
So
yeah. So
I just want a quick tangent. I just want to point out that when you look on Dreamborn, which a lot of us use for our cards, it has a new popular filter, which is kind of cool, and I use that a lot to try and get to a lot of the cards I want to see quicker. However, the downside of that is that if nobody likes the card or puts it in a deck that someone then likes, that it never actually shows up on the popular filter. So sometimes you'd be looking for a card and you can't find it, and it's because you're on the popular filter. And so I was looking for original Gantu, Chapter 1 Gantu, but he doesn't show up on the
list. Oh no!
Because no one likes him. So
we do, and that's all that matters.
Poor Gantu. I just want to y'all need to stop cyberbullying Gantu. It's not nice.
Yep. Anyway,
so what we're saying is we need you to add Gantu to your decks. Like it.
Yes.
Yep.
We need to get him. We need to get Gantu on the popular screen.
Yeah. We need to get Gantu on the podcast, honestly. I wonder if we can make that we can arrange that. Anyway, thank you, Keith. I'm sorry that I haven't seen your questions. I will be more attentive to our Spotify side of things. So thank you for that. Our first question or our second question of the week, I should say. In terms of, this is from Jackalope Spam from our Discord. He said, in terms of new stuff and abilities, do you think they'll add anything to encourage a more mono ink deck, i.e. an amber card that gives other amber cards a buff?
No. The answer is just simply no. And first off, an amber character that gives other amber characters a buff isn't really a mono color.
No, but
card.
maybe with the stipulation that you can only play amber or something. If you're only playing amber, these cards get plus. What's that? No, I'm adding that.
Right, but now how do you prove that then when you play that
you're
card on the deck?
You're right. Interesting.
So
Yeah, that's a good.
like I'm only put well, I was until Rip Hiram, but I'm only playing Sapphire for the first like 8 turns of the game, and then finally you're like, oh, there's the other color they're playing.
Right.
That happens a lot. So
unless you're inking a dragon on turn 1.
Yeah. The biggest problem with mono ink colors is that basically no matter what, there's always going to be at least one good card in any other color that would always be better than like there. I just don't think there will ever be 60 of one color card that are the best 60 cards. There will always be at least one or a few others in another ink color that are better for the deck.
Yeah.
And so it's just we'll probably get to a point where mono ink decks are more playable because we'll be closer, right? Like right now, the best you get is like you find like maybe like 80% of one color and 20% of another in some of these decks, but
in Blurple it's like 90-10.
Is
honestly.
it really?
It's mostly Amethyst and then a little bit of Ramp. Yeah, and Hades. It's Ramp, Hades, and then the rest is Amethyst.
But I think that's ultimately the reason why you don't ever see 60 mono cards, to like put an emphasis on Andy's point here, is that it's not just that like there are other cards that are good. It's just that ink colors have a very specific identity. And so you need something else to help the identity that you're playing. So you play, like you just said, Brad, you play 90% of your Blurple cards are Amethyst, but you play those Sapphire cards because they get you to ramp to be quicker to be able to play your most impactful Amethyst cards and stuff.
Yep.
And so you don't get those same, abilities and stuff when they go outside. And I think it'd be pretty hard for any particular single ink card, let's say just like this example, this amber card, to give other amber cards an ability that already isn't in your ink color, because then you move away from your ink type. And I think as a result of that, it's like you're still just further trapped into that. So like, we all know that I think like amber's pretty much ability is healing, right? That's what it tends to do. It gets card draw.
Questing.
Support.
I thought amber's
Well,
was questing.
Is it questing?
It's got
I would say healing card draw.
Characters for lore pips at least.
I have the identities here. One sec.
Well, while Brad's doing that, I'll just continue saying things incorrect.
I mean, it does do healing, right? Like,
yeah, but I'm just saying. So, like, what gives your other amber cards get to like +1 singer than they have.
Maybe I don't.
They already have that card. It's your characters count as having is a location.
It's Atlantica, and then I think Ukulele does something like that as well, which is your favorite card. Yeah, I mean, there's all kinds of stuff. Yeah, it's singing, it's healing, it's support, it's bodyguard, it's all that.
Yeah, but my point is like I don't think you're gonna get a card that like is like play this and like your character's name Belle become be prepared. Snow White become be prepared. You're not gonna get the card that's going to help make mono you get the card that you need that
Yeah,
would
doesn't
put like
exist.
a ruby card in, or a sapphire card in, or whatever.
It just fundamentally can't exist. Just the same when
Right.
we were talking about how if dual ink cards could be played in either or deck,
Yeah.
one color would just be ignored on it, right? If the sapphire ruby card was good, then or a sapphire amber card was good, they just played in sapphire deck. Sapphire would just get
Yeah.
the card, right? If you
Right.
know,
Yeah.
so if the card was just like, oh, this card's so good with amber cards, well, then just any deck that played amber cards is going to play that one too. It's still really good. Like, it's fine.
Yeah, it's just interesting to me that Ravensburger set the game rules in a way specifically to where you can play an individual color, where it says up to 2 colors, right? But they expect you to do 2 colors. I would think in the future, like, I mean, I don't know. I don't want to say that I think that in the future it'll happen, but perhaps there might be. I mean, in this
Certainly.
specific example, yeah, there might be something that encourages you to play just a single color. I don't know what that is, but I thought it would engage in interesting conversation here, which it did. I'm in agreement with the guys. I don't know that there's a way to effectively do that, but
No, I
there's
mean,
nothing stopping me from encouraging.
They
So
have
I
ways
actually-
of doing it. They say it's cards that say like if you've only played amber cards this entire game, and you have 15 lore, you win the game. Right? Like
I just want to say, for the record, the amber identity here is amber glimmers are purposeful, patient, and dedicated. They're able to pursue causes and ambitions with a single-minded persistence. They often work within communities, either from above as a leader or from within as a healer, bodyguard, or just a loyal follower.
So healer, bodyguard, and the rest sounded like Chat GPT. I'm kidding. I'm joking. It was very beautiful, but like it didn't relate to the game very much. Like what I thought
It's
you were
the
gonna talk
lore,
about
and
that, right.
Yeah,
I thought you were gonna talk
I
about
love-
the cards identity, not the lore identity, I guess, to it.
Right,
yeah.
Should we move on?
Yep, let's move
Next
on.
question.
All right, next question is from Paul, also in our Discord. He said, new question. With all the talk and lack of removal in the ink types, what new mechanic would you put in place to maintain the ink identities, but allow other inks to counter cards like items, i.e. Bizarro Aurora Lore Guardians, a character that while it is in play, your opponent can't choose their items for abilities or effects.
Can I just
Do you guys have any examples?
Yeah, can I first just point out the irony of this question? Bizarro Aurora Lore Guardian, a character that while it is in play, your opponents can't choose their own items for abilities or effects. So, the Aurora Lore Guardian gives your items ward, but it like wards them out of their own items. I wonder who that card would be good against. How about we just ban them instead? Ban.
Yeah.
So, good idea, Paul. Not really needed anymore. Thanks, though.
In that example, that card
joking,
wouldn't be
but-
needed. Yeah.
But yeah, this is an interesting thought exercise. I was not prepared really, so I don't like have a great example, but like it would be cool, to just like use, use the abilities that you normally have, right? Like, if your opponent draws a card, you may banish one of their characters. If if your opponent heals one of their characters on your turn, you can banish one of their characters. And like, some sort of where you get to, if you do what your ink color is supposed to do, here's your reward, it's removal, right? Like that kind of concept to a card would be nifty. But really, this is another one of these questions. We get a lot of these questions a lot where people give us these sort of thought exercises and we end up like building these cards and just ultimately giving Ravensburger just like millions of dollars worth of genius ideas, really. For free, I know, for absolutely nothing, just
Which is why we're going to continue talking about our ideas, but you won't hear them unless you're subscribed to our Patreon for $4.99.
One day that will make sense. Yes.
But to that point, though, like, let us know in the comments, like, if this, I think we've said it before about like, Disney general stuff. We want to do an episode in the future where just we like talk about our favorite Disney movies and just Disney stuff and not necessarily Lorcana. Would you guys want to see a video where, the villain sat down and just, maybe we built a set of cards, right? Maybe not 204, but like let's try and build the Villain's Island set and see if we can't come up with some cool cards and some cool concepts, mechanics to maybe introduce. And
This would be a really cool collaboration effort with Smorcana. Like if anybody here doesn't listen to Smorcana, they make a dream card, I think, every week, and they're always so good. And if we put that kind of effort into a whole episode of dream cards, I think that would be really fun to do. Because again, yeah, I think it's a great question, just to echo Andy. But it's hard to come up with a specific example to provide to these guys on the spot. Because I throw these questions in day of. I probably should put more time. And it's like, hey, we're going to answer this question this week.
Don't tell them our secrets, Brad.
Well, listen, I slept for 4 hours today after work, so I was behind on getting the notes out there and everything. I'm sorry about the secrets, but yeah, I'm down for doing a whole episode like that. That kind of stuff entertains me, which is why I shout out Smorcana, because I listen to them and they have fun doing this kind of stuff as well. So yeah. I think it would be a great effort to do that.
Yep. I don't really have anything to add. I think you both kind of said everything I thought. So let us know down in the comments below if you'd like to see that. And we will add it to our ever-growing list of great ideas that we have for content. Next question.
Next question from Mustang Cody. He asked, Fortisphere over Pop, do you guys feel the same way, or was this the wrong item to ban? And he is referencing the Lucky Dime, a former villain of the week.
This question, I thought he says Fortisphere over Popsicle.
He's asking.
Do you feel the same way, or was the wrong item to ban? So clearly, like, is he saying Fortisphere over Popsicle? The wrong item got banned. We should have banned Popsicle. But then he throws Dime in the question.
Right? Yeah.
So I'm just not really sure exactly which item Cody is saying he thinks should be banned. That said, I'll comment on all three of them. Fortisphere, poor
makes
guy.
Sense.
But it makes sense when they said it that they were trying to target, Sapphire Steel items. I kind of feel like without Hiram, like Steel still, exists, but their concept was we don't want both Fortisphere and Popsicle to exist, and Popsicle fits better, they felt, with the Sapphire, because Sapphire is more about items. So Popsicle was allowed to live.
Also, Popsicle has a lot more synergy than just with Hiram, right? Yeah. It was actually built into the game. It's a Zootopia franchise card. It's an item that belongs in Sapphire, and there are other cards that reference the Popsicle. Like if you if you banish or ban the Popsicle, then Nick Wilde has no Enter the Board or no on quest or whatever his ability is to recycle that Popsicle from your discard. It's just a dead thing, a dead card. So
I lost a pack rush with Kirsten on our surprise pack rush because I had Popsicle, Nick Wilde, and Hiram in my hand, and instead of playing better cards, I chose to Hiram the Popsicle, and then the next turn bring the Popsicle back with the Nick Wilde, and then play the Popsicle, and then Hiram it again, and then she was like quested and won basically in the back rush. But I was like, what a combo!
Yeah. But I will be first to admit I've been on the train of banning. I thought banning Popsicle would be a good solution. That would be the answer. But in hindsight, after this happened, it's like, oh yeah, Nick Wilde exists, and it's more in line with the Sapphire flow or Sapphire identity of the game, as opposed to Fortisphere, where Hiram is in both Ruby Sapphire and Sapphire Steel, and the Fortisphere just doesn't fit in with the
Sapphire.
With the Sapphire. I mean, I'm not wording that correctly, but
what you're saying is Popsicle on 1. Judy hops to throw away the Popsicle on 3, draw a card. Nick Wilde on 4 to bring the Popsicle back, and then play it again.
We followed it.
5.
We figured out the solution.
Zootopia meta is here. Is that what you're saying?
Remember when everybody hated Judy in like set 3? Set 3 came out. She was in set 2, I guess. And anytime you play Judy, everybody's like, "That's a bad card," and I'm like, "She quests for 2." Yeah, but I don't know. Anyway,
but I, honestly, like, yes, I agree. I will just say, I don't think any cards should have been banned.
Yeah.
That's my hot take.
No, I agree.
Wow.
And dime. I didn't give my take on the dime real quick. I don't think.
But hold on.
No, sorry.
Let me finish. Is that but I do think, yeah, it does make sense that they did Fortisphere over Popsicle. And no, I think dime shouldn't be banned. I generally don't think cards should be banned. That's just my hot take.
Well, yeah, I like letting things go where they go, but
well, we can get more into that on the main segment.
I don't know. Dime is another one of those non-interactive cards that people don't like. It's expensive. You can.
It is expensive.
It's a lot more annoying with the new Hiram or the new Hiram, the new Tammy.
Yeah,
but
you play up to dime as a win condition, right? The Popsicles and Fortispheres just get recycled over and over again. I think, and clearly the draw engine is what was targeted here with Hiram being banned as well as the Fortisphere. So, say what you will about Tamatoa bringing back itty items and playing them for free on Quest, but I feel like just the constant draw has made Sapphire Steel and Sapphire Ruby, just the time we've seen all set, so far that every single tournament has been led by a large percentage of those two decks. And Sapphire Steel, it got nuked quite a bit, but they still have the Workshop and all kinds of other ways to get draws too that, not quite as good, I guess, because you got to pay each time you do it. But anyway,
Merlin's carpet bag.
You're a connoisseur of that one.
Frying pan. Good card. Good card.
All right, next question.
Yeah. Ali Ultran asks, now that Hiram is visiting the squirrel, what decks are you going to try?
None. I quit the game.
Find out more after the break.
I'm just kidding.
Okay.
We're going to talk a lot about that in our main segment.
Yeah, that should have been the last question there.
And I was just joking.
No. There's a bunch. Every deck is going to get tried again. Really, it should. You should put consideration, whether it's you build it and test it or just think about it. You should give them all some consideration, but we'll go over some more specifics.
But I actually think the next question gets into the meat of the whole argument. So you want to go ahead?
We've kind of gone over this already, but yeah.
Yeah. From our friend Captain Inkswell, Steven in the Discord asked, do you think the decision to ban Hiram and Fortisphere was correct? If no, what do you think should have been done? Also, do you think this gives hope or fear to the future of the game? And I thought that'd be a good segue into the main segment, not knowing how long we were going to go into it in Underworld news.
We got a little feisty there.
Yeah.
So I've already said that I don't think it's correct. And listen, I'm generally on the rules that Ravensburger has the roadmap. They know, the things that are coming and what could potentially answer that. But we're just so early into the set. And it's not like we haven't had sets before where decks have been, more advantaged or have been really prominent. And, people talk about banning cards and this card all the time and stuff. And I just it felt really sudden, a little surprising to me that they would choose this without seeing more of it. And honestly, the reasoning of we want to keep the meta healthy and particularly their use of keeping it fun. It's well, what's the arbiter of fun here? So I have a lot of, I think, criticisms, particularly of the answer. But the thing is if no, what do I think should be done? Really, honestly, I just think they need to let things play out. If an answer really needed to come later on, they could have done it. And honestly, I don't know that Hiram and Popsicle or Fortisphere were the problems. I think if you're going to say something, I think some of the problems are the cards they introduced in set 7. But, it's harder to, I think, nerf a card that you've just brought into the meta than maybe a card that's been in the meta for a while. And I'll talk a little bit more, I think, about what I think this means for the game, but I'm going to give the other guys a shot at cracking this question.
What difference would you expect to see if it can? We're a month into the meta right now. We've been seeing the same results the entire time, and we've seen
False.
Sapphire.
I disagree with that statement. We haven't seen the same thing. I mean,
we haven't seen Sapphire Steel and Sapphire Ruby on top the entire time.
Sapphire Steel was on top for the first week or so. Sapphire Ruby has now been largely on top over Sapphire Steel, and we've also seen Emerald Amethyst and Amber Steel and Emerald Steel all make, very, reasonable runs in top 8s and top 4s even. It's, in decent events. Like,
But in the top 16 or even more in all of these events have been largely comprised of Sapphire, of those two decks.
same thing
And
existed with Diablo and Bucky.
Yeah.
They are Ruby Amethyst.
and
Amethyst.
then they nuked Bucky.
Last
It's
set was
one of
Ruby
those.
Sapphire, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying is that what I'm leading into is that I feel like they've been looking at Hiram for. I mentioned it in my news video. I feel like they've been looking into Hiram for a long time. One episode of Rules of Villainy a month or two ago, or maybe more than
They
that.
eroded him on the app.
They on the official app for the beginning of the episode, we saw it broke on the app that somebody found that Hiram only drew one card. And while we sit here for 2 hours talking about that, we got off of the podcast to find out that they had just fixed the app and it was a mistake.
Yeah.
But looking back on it now, it's like one of those things where I feel like they've been looking at Hiram for a long time. To us, and the timing of it is that it's been 3 weeks into the set and they just suddenly changed Hiram. To me, they've been looking at Hiram for a long time and they decided we have to do it now because we're about to announce Worlds. And it's one of the things where it's like, yeah, they did it the day of. I already said this in the previous segment, but they did it day of ban because any data that we get this weekend, if it wasn't in effect, meant that that none of it's like Toronto where that meta just it only existed for that specific tournament, and then the game is going to wildly change, right? So Hiram has been a clutch card in every single Sapphire, with the exception of Blurple, Sapphire deck since set 2. He's been
Kiwi
a 4
Bird.
of. I guess recently we've seen him down to 3.
Kiwi Bird is not in that list at all.
I guess that's fair too. Yeah.
Yeah.
But my point is he's that powerful that he's had to have been looked at for so long that they finally pulled the trigger on. I don't think it's just been these 3 weeks. It just appears that way because the set just came out. But did I have to remind you that these sets are only 3 months long, right? So At what point do they decide to do that if a month isn't enough? So that's my tangent.
I tend to agree with Vince a good bit on this. I wanted to just see this play out. That's sort of my knee-jerk reaction, and sort of kind of where I land at the end of it all is I still would have maybe liked to see where it went. And initially I was very much like, we don't have enough data, right? Like I am a strong believer that the Bucky meta was not as bad as people made it seem. I, cried myself to sleep many nights during the Bucky meta at the beginning, but towards the end, I stayed awake staring at the wall, just dreaming of all of the Bucky tears I would reap from the tournaments that we were playing in. I was like, this is easy. I got this. And so I just, I felt like there could be that moment, right? We had it at Atlanta, the DLC. We thought the meta was solved with Ruby Amethyst, and then we see, it was Ruby Sapphire then too, and we see the Amber Amethyst, Fairy Godmother deck come in and win that. Emerald Steel is supposed to be super strong. I've heard people talk about how Sapphire Steel at the time in Seattle was very strong. That's what Moyen played, and he felt it was incredibly strong, if not possibly one of the best decks in the format. So I would have loved to see it play out. And I thought it was rushed very quickly. The more I thought about it, the more I realized that is based off the information we have. Ravensburger has the future. They can see the cards that are coming out for probably at least 2 or 3 sets into the future. They know a lot more of that knowledge than we do. And I also realized that they probably, like Brad said, could have been planning this for some time, right? They could have very easily have realized that Hiram was a problem and said, look, if this set comes out and if we see these results that we are expecting or predicting may happen, then, we need to hit the button on Hiram and ban it. And the Fortisphere may have just been sort of part of it as well. What do I think should have been done? I agree, no bans. I think I would have loved to see it play out. That said, I also just I'm here to play Lorcana, right? So I'm gonna do what they want to do, and I guess I will give my comments on the hopes and fears and stuff. Please do not let this be Ravensburger giving in to bullying and loud noises. I don't know. This needs to be a thing where Ravensburger truly did have much more concrete evidence and information than we, the public, have. Because it very much feels like from the outside that this could be them just giving in to the, I would argue, loud minority, right? But, maybe it even is a majority, but just the people complaining. And it's okay, well, you know what happened once they banned Hiram? How many people in that Q&A were asking about whether they're going to ban Diablo or all of Discard or all of the songs in the game or just every card that isn't vanilla? There were some crazy people going down some crazy paths wanting a lot of cards banned. And I don't fear for it because I trust in Ravensburger, and I think they're doing us right here. But the more transparency we could get, the more we could feel more comfortable about these sort of situations, and that we know that you're not just, Ravensburger's not just giving in to people who complain. Otherwise, I'm just gonna complain that my opponent's deck is too good, ban it all.
Yeah, I would just say that Steve Warner likes to play with my mind here with this. You lose. He's saying I lose again by taking away Hiram from me, my boy. But
you're a Ruby Amethyst player.
Yeah,
but Ruby Amethyst is that was sank to the bottom.
Is this
and so
or appropriation? Is that what's going on here? Are you
and I needed to play. I wanted to play something different, so I wanted to play. So I was playing Sapphire Steel.
Play what you love, my guy. That's
the
what
one
I've been
game you've played since the last time Ruby Amethyst was good is Sapphire Steel, and now you're all of a sudden a Hiram.
I also played Ruby Sapphire quite a bit too.
You played a lot of Ruby or Sapphire Steel before.
Yeah,
before Ruby Sapphire, you were Sapphire Steel.
Yeah, I was playing Sapphire. So, but honestly, my biggest fear about all this is I am not satisfied with the response from Ravensburger in this, and I'm ultimately I would like more transparency, and I think this is the answer I have a lot with them, because I get Brad's point to saying that we have heard and that we're speculating that this could have been something they've been looking at for a while. Well, what would solve that is if they just said that.
Yeah.
Just tell us, just be hey, we are paying attention to this. This is a card that we've identified as a problem for a long time. It's not what we just seen in the past 3 weeks that has made this decision, and stuff. And then it's just all of these things that we could be speculating about. They could just come out and say, hey, but instead we get I just feel like we get this overly PR heavy response from them that's really doesn't tell us anything and gives me little hope to who knows, what are they going to ban another card next week? I don't know.
Hopefully.
Maybe,
what's next?
what's that? Do I think that's going to happen? No, but I am a little worried about how they're handling this.
Do you think this just occurred to me as I was questioning why they wouldn't announce that they were looking into it? Do you think that there are market manipulation reasons where if they say they're going to be working on this card, people are going to buy them all out and make those cards hard to get for people? Is it one of those back end things where they're well, we can't say we're doing this because people are going to go do stuff. I'm just asking. No. I have no idea.
What I'm not asking for is I'm not asking for them to say, hey, we're looking at be prepared. What I'm saying is when they take out Hiram, they could have said, hey, look, we have been looking at Hiram for the past 3 months, and
Fair.
this has been an unfair car. Like giving it a justification, but their justification I just think is really honestly kind of weak, which is like it's not fun. The meta's not competitive, and it's like, well, what meta are we looking at? What's the definition of fun? And also, like, their argument about Fortisphere is like, well, it doesn't really fit in that ink type, and it's like, okay, I mean, like, that's probably by far the strongest argument they had, and I still find that somewhat unconvincing in a lot of respects. But okay, I'll concede that one. But I find the information that we get to players does not leave me in a warm and cuddly spot of like what the future of this game looks like and stuff. And it's like, I just I'm gonna be honest, I'm getting on the thin edge of continuing to say like Ravensburger listens to the community, they know what they're doing and stuff. It's like I've made that excuse for them for every single time this has happened. And I'm like, at some point we've gotta like we got to move beyond that.
This is them doing that still, though, right? You could argue that this is them listening to the community who is saying, according to them, they have the Roz gift of always watching. They've got all these, they've got their, puzzle pieces in all of the different places, if you will. They say that they've heard from everyone and they compiled the data, and the data shows that it's unfun and nobody wants it. And so this was the best solution. I hope that was actually the case. I hope they actually have the data for that. And I hope that, they actually believe that's gonna do it.
I don't know.
But
I will say in the past, this is a lot of like angst I have with Ravensburger, honestly, in a lot of respects, which is it's a game I really enjoy, but it's also a game that I'm like, I'll be honest, right? And I've had this conversation before. It's like, do I continue playing or do I move to a more collector-esque option of this game, which is originally like how I thought I was going to be in this game, was to collect it. I never thought that I was going to play it. Never thought that I'd be here, with
me and you both
that I have, and that we're playing. Not only that we play, we're podcasting and we're streaming events and stuff. And I really want to continue doing that. I want to continue having faith in the game, but I just would love. And I'll be honest with you. I don't know if it's Ravensburger. I don't know if it's the mouse. I don't know what it is, but like
a mouse didn't ban Hiram, mate.
Just give us, well, but I'm talking about the information, and stuff. And it's like, give us the information,
right?
Because here, like, we're making all these excuses, right? Like, well, we think Worlds is going to be around the corner, and like, and stuff like, and maybe this is why they're doing that and stuff. And it's like, what could stop all this? They tell us. Yeah, they could just be transparent and let us know what's going on. And I would feel better about that. Like, I may not be happy about the ban of Hiram and Fortisphere, but I'd feel better about it if they would just give us an honest answer. And like, I mean, I think Andy, you said like, Steve was in that chat, but like, it was like every question was like, well, that's a Bruno. I'm fair. In fairness, some of those questions were like not great, but like it did feel like we were just getting the exact, like, what was the point? I felt like, what was the point of that?
The one where he said,
might as well read the statement.
We have people playing at local game stores, and we talk to the game stores, and we talk to the community players, and that whole spiel about how they reached far and wide to get these opinions and stuff on that did feel a bit. It felt like they shoehorned a lot of questions into that same answer. But I also feel like he gave, some good answers in that about some of this. And for me, what it kind of boils down to is that, like, there's sometimes when you can see a very clear motive for an organization to not be transparent with you. And they typically will do something along the lines of saying, hey, we're not doing this bad thing. We're not going to show you that we're not doing this bad thing, but just trust us. And in that situation, it's like, I'm like, be transparent, or like, no thanks, right? Like, I'm not interested in this.
Yeah.
For me though, there's really no. I don't see any reason for them to like gain anything off of not being transparent with us. Ravensburger, you talked about the market stuff or whatever. Ravensburger doesn't care about that, right? If I worked at Ravensburger, I would love to just like squash the market. Tell people we're looking at Diablo, have them buy 10 billion of them and spend all their money on it, and then like, nah, Diablo's fine. We're not going to ban them. And now like they just lose all that money. That's like
Yeah.
scalpers,
Well, that's
region
yeah.
for me. But
Yeah.
that's me personally. And so I feel like because there's nothing really for them to gain by not being transparent with us, it makes me believe that the reason they're not being transparent with us is essentially for our own good, if you will. And it's that they know whether it's competitive integrity or whether it's just some sort of fairness to the game, or really just like to not, I don't know, ruin the magic, like pull back the curtain, and like it's kind of a weird excuse or example or whatever, but I just ultimately I'm like, look, it's not like I'm losing money because you're not being transparent with me. I'm not like hurting at all. It's just weird, right? Like I don't get it. I don't understand it. And the quickest way to hate something and to be mad at something is to not understand it. And so I'm with
Yeah.
Vince. I feel like if they just explain some of this stuff to us, it would help ease a lot of people. Whether it's the people who are mad at the ban, whether it's the people who are, happy at the ban. Like the understanding just brings everyone to a more even playing field and level of understanding, But I trust that
And,
there's a reason they can't tell us that. So, whatever.
and I will just say, I think ultimately, really, like if you get into the fine point of saying like really how you react to this decision, I think has a lot to do with how much you trust Ravensburger's grand plan, right? And one thing I'll say is like, I don't think, for better or worse, and I think there's some fair criticisms and unfair criticisms, that like Ravensburger's trust within the community has eroded a little bit over time. And like I said, I don't think that's necessarily their fault per se on every little issue. And I know there are a lot of complex things going on. But ultimately, like, you add this to the mix, I think you start to wear. And that to get back to Captain Ingswell's like kind of question here, which is that like that's what concerns me about the future, is like, is this what we're going to expect in the future? I certainly hope not, is what I would say.
There's room for improvement in the way that they handle some of these things. I agree.
Absolutely.
I'm not worried. I'm still playing the game. I'm not quitting, not throwing away any of my cards. I might burn my Hirams out back in
you
Viking
can't.
Funeral. I'm gonna
just to
put
keep
them
in
a little
mind,
boat, set them out. Throw a
keep in mind,
flaming arrow.
keep in mind, he's still playable. He's just not playable in core constructed.
Yeah, when do I play anything other than core constructed? Am I gonna
I don't know.
like reseal a pack and play him in pack rush? Like
Maybe
Yeah,
why not? Why not do cube, like the cube things, that Magic does?
Yeah.
they don't.
We
That's
have
not
plenty
an
of
official
both.
format. That's not an official format yet.
It can be it can be our
Yeah.
own format. Multiplayer.
April 10th, Ravensburger announces cube format, promptly bans Hiram in cube format. No, Hiram's bad in most other formats. Hiram's a really, really good card when you get to like have 8 items that all cantrip and like and you can use them or whatever. But like you just like shuffled a bunch of random cards and you're like, ooh, Hiram. Nah.
No. I mean, honestly, what Ravensburger really needs to do is they need to give us dates for the next competitive
DLC
circuit, because I tell you what, I know about you all, but leagues feel like they are waning.
Yeah.
In attendance.
We'll see how the new DLC circuit, or not the DLC, the new whatchamacallit, champs. Yeah, the new format. See how that changes anything or whatever. But I think no matter what, there is always this big peak. Lorcana came out. It's huge. It's amazing. Everyone loves it. it's gonna wane some. It's a matter of whether it can sort of stabilize out and stuff. And you talked about it before about whether you decided whether you want to be a collector or not or something like that. This game definitely has like a big set of commitment to it. I think there's a lot of people out there who complain about a card being unfair or not good because they're losing to it. Myself included. I have these feelings where Diablo is unfun, where Bell is unfair, where Tamatoa is just I play against Kirsten, and I just 3 daisies on the board, and I'm like, why do I even play this game? Like, what is this? What is the point of this? Like, what am I
That's
doing?
been me the last 3 weeks. I was relating to Vince so thoroughly when he was saying that, like, man, do I just want to go back to collecting? Because I haven't landed on a single deck. I've just been playing things that interest me, and then every time I run into just meta decks and of Ruby Sapphire, or Sapphire Steel, and I'm like, this deck isn't going to do what it's supposed to do against that. I'm looking at 3 bells on turn 3. Like, I'm just going to scoop.
Well, right. And I mean, 3 bells on turn 3, you definitely do scoop. Kirsten had 3 daisies on turn 2, and I scooped on that one too. So, there are certain circumstances, but I mean, when you're building your decks, are you building them against Sapphire Steel and Sapphire Ruby, the decks you expect to see, the most in the meta? Because there's definitely there's my whole point sort of here boils down to, like, there is a large level of commitment, whether that's going to be learning what you believe is the best deck, Sapphire Steel, Sapphire Ruby, or whatever comes out of this new meta, or whether it's I think the LD and Artifacts talked about it on the Articast, that they love these decks, and Artifacts is known for his Emerald Amethyst, but they love these decks that are these sort of like tier 1 or 1.5. They're not. You want to find a deck that has a really good matchup into the best deck in the format and is okay into the rest of the field. But you don't want it to be the best deck in the format, right? So that nobody's really teching against you, but you naturally do really well against the best people, and you're like okay against the rest of them. So you use your skill to try and win. That is definitely a place to live in the competitive field, but that takes a lot of effort. Trying different decks, testing different things, trying to find that ultimate deck, or like I said, getting better at that tier 0 deck that you think is the best, or whatever really you enjoy. The game ultimately takes time and effort to get to that point, and if you don't put enough effort in, whether that's because you can't, or you don't want to, ultimately you might find or both, right? You might find yourself saying that, like, this game is not fun, and that's okay, right? But the game is also not easy. It's easy to play, but it's hard to master, which I think is one of the most amazing parts of Lorcana. You can just sit down and play it with anyone, and on any given day, any given person can win with any given deck. But if you want to win a DLC, or you want to win a Continentals, or you want to win Worlds, then you have to, like, there is some insane nuance and decision making to go on there. So, I would encourage anyone, if you think, oh, this deck is too good, it's not fun, just sort of think to yourself, like, do I want to play that deck? Do I want to try and fight the challenge that is beating that deck? Because it's doable, right? Or in this case, it's not, and they'll ban Hiram and Fortisphere, and then it will be doable, and now we can all have fun, apparently. But
then there will be some new deck that'll be at the top,
right,
because that's how the meta always works.
And that's always it. You're either playing the best deck, or you're playing a deck that is trying to beat the best deck, and you can find fun in whatever.
I just think this goes back to, though, is like one of the things is like, more emphasis. And I do think that's coming when they release the new, like, hub, Lorcana Play Hub, or the Ravensburger Play Hub, which is more casual emphasis, because I think both of you have talked to me individually about how like one of the stores you go to sometimes supposed to have a more like casual fun night, but then somebody will come up with a deck that isn't the casual fun, that they'll just bring a meta deck and like steamroll over you, and that's not fun when you think you're all playing by the kind of same functional rules. And so I think like there's a room for everybody in Lorcana, but I think there probably needs to be more support from Ravensburger to build that community up, and particularly to help local game stores build that community. Because I do think local game stores, not all, but I think some are struggling in that area and stuff, and waning a little bit.
I think there's tons of room for that, and I think the Play Hub will bring that for us.
We should probably move into the main segment to talk about decks.
Hiram, more Hiram.
Yeah. If you'd like your questions answered by the villains in the future, please comment on this video or our socials, or join us on our Discord, where you can comment in the Constituents Corner channel. So, guys, I don't know if you've made it clear yet. How do you feel about the Hiram ban? I'm just kidding.
We are
question really
running out of time, though, so we should probably talk about the
what
decks.
Alternatives.
What's next?
So Emerald Steel, new best deck. Any other deck not worth playing. Ban the bird. All right, moving on. Villain of the week. Apologies to Gantu. No.
I don't know. I mean, I think my guess would be we'll probably like. I think Ruby Sapphire is still a viable deck. I think it's becomes more challenging.
What? Ruby Sapphire is dead.
You think it's done? Dead. Doesn't exist.
I mean, it's not completely dead. The DKP version, people are like, oh, well, it ran 2 or 3 Hirams. I tried it. It's definitely not bad, but like it really, really, really lacks in the card draw, and it already couldn't even fit 4 Hirams in to begin with. So like, it's definitely not going to be able to fit in any of these other packages to help them draw cards.
Well, that's easy. You can run more than 60 cards. You can run 72.
Yeah, I don't know about that, mate. But so it's going to be rough, right? You end up playing the same curve out. I have no idea how the coil deck would work, because you absolutely can't be throwing away cards from hand with something like a Fishbone when you have no draw engine on the other side of it. And you could look at maybe the Ruby challenge draw cards, like the Queen and the medallion weights and things like that, but then you go, okay, well, items are worthless to me, right? Like I don't have a Hiram to be able to eat them to draw cards with. So throwing more items in isn't necessarily what you want to do. And I don't know. I think Ruby Sapphire is in shambles, honestly. I tried the DK list, but it's
so. Then, do you think with that in shambles, do you think a deck like Ruby Sapphire makes its way from the graveyard? Ruby Amethyst still. That's what I mean.
Absolutely.
Sure.
That's what a lot of people are rejoicing about is Ruby Amethyst is back. I think there's been a lot of talk that discard, 3 variations of discard are going to dominate again. And just recently, right before the podcast, we and a bunch of our teammates and people on our Discord were talking about Blurple.
I'm laughing. I'm laughing because the reason that we banned Hiram and Fortisphere was because of fun, and we're talking about bringing back Ruby Amethyst and discard.
Ruby Amethyst. There's nothing wrong with Ruby Amethyst. Discard is not fun.
When did you start playing the game of Lorcana, Brad? Because there was a lot not fun about Ruby Amethyst for a couple sets there. People were
no, but it's been consistent. Like you call it all reliable. You played Ruby Amethyst for so long. It's the deck that we have said several times on here, and I agree with. If I was to bring somebody competitive new to the game, I would hand them a Ruby Amethyst deck, and they would figure out how the game works.
You got beat by my friend from Atlanta when I gave him my Ruby Amethyst.
We're not talking about
grapes, okay? He
that.
never
That
played
was about the
Lorcana
bowl.
before.
Like that day,
The
that was
cards-
one of the days where how I've been feeling the last couple weeks with this game. Where I showed up for League. Little tangent here. Thanks, Andy. Repressed memories.
This is a
Andy
fight
shows up-
episode.
Yeah, Andy shows up to Grapes games for League one Sunday afternoon with his friend from Atlanta who's really good at Magic. They grew up together playing Magic and everything. And he hands it. He's like, well, I don't want him to be bored for the next couple hours. Here, take this Ruby Amethyst deck and play. Let alone he had a little bit of coaching on the way too. They all drove together saying, hey, here's how the deck works and all that stuff. I, of course, get paired up with I lose to Andy, I think, in a practice game before League started. And then I sit down my first game in our best of 3 Swiss, 3-round Swiss, with his buddy also playing Andy's deck. And I lose to that too. And it was his first game. And this was like set, 2, 3?
Somewhere
But
in there.
yeah,
It was for the
not
eclipse,
happy about
whenever
that.
the eclipse happened in our area.
Oh, that was such a long time ago. Wow.
Yeah.
But it was that set. But yeah.
But
But,
fun times.
The
Good deck, though. Good deck.
it's just one of those things where it's like, I just remember playing Ruby Amethyst, and because that was not the deck I started with. The deck I started in Lorcana with was Ruby Sapphire, and it was not good. It was not a good deck to play. But those are my 2 favorite colors, so that's how I chose. Because what do I know about TCGs? And I mean, what do I still know about TCGs?
I was going to say, that's what I still ask myself.
Be
that.
honestly,
Like,
but I remember, like playing Ruby Amethyst. I remember sitting down against folks and being like, they're like, "You're not playing Ruby Amethyst, are you?" Like people get mad when you were playing that deck early on in the game.
Song were the
Try
main
hard.
two.
You were sweaty.
Yeah.
You didn't realize you were
Yeah.
sweating the Ruby Amethyst night.
That's back when I had like ambition with the game too. I was playing Emerald Steel on most of set 1 because I remember seeing like the meta reports, and Emerald was not represented on those pie charts at all. Nobody was playing Emerald at all.
Worst
at least
color
for
in
the
the
next couple
worst
of
ink color in the game.
in the first set. And but I was having fun with it, and I was making like things work, but it still didn't hold a candle to what Ruby Amethyst could do, and even Steel Song. And I forgot where I was going with that.
No.
But-
So a couple other decks I think we'll probably see better. I think we'll probably come. Do we think we'll see?
Blurple.
Do we think we'll see a Sapphire Steel aggro deck?
Yeah, the Kiwi
return?
Bird still
that's not going
exists.
anywhere.
I think
Do we think Amber Steel?
yeah. Yep. Amber Steel and Emerald Steel are most of the 2 a lot of people are predicting to be really popular. I personally did find the Emerald Amethyst Oops All Diablos deck that like Kirsten was playing to be pretty strong.
It looks fun.
It is definitely less powerful than the Emerald Steel Diablo, but it is, I believe, a little more consistent. And there was, a lot of tricky things that 2-drop dual ink Diablo that is evasive really threatens your
Challenger.
Yeah, it threatens your Diablo, which your like actual Diablo, which is really annoying. And and then it has a lot of evasives, and it means that like every one of your damage spells has to be used very, very efficiently. This was already the problem when Sapphire Steel existed with Hiram and all that stuff, which was another reason why I kind of didn't think he needed to be banned, because I was already getting my butt whooped by, players like Britt and stuff and Kirsten who are playing this, Emerald Amethyst.
Well, I mean, listen, the ban list is young. It's still new.
Diablo,
It is
friends on the other side, a whole new world. Be prepared. Rapunzel gone, Cindy gone, Strength gone. No.
Do either of you ever watch Last Week Tonight with John Oliver when they watch those segments and stuff, and they're always the fun, and the guy's like over, it's like, no, ban it. It's like pumpkin spice latte, and that's what we need is like just card after card to be like ban.
I haven't watched that in a while. I missed that show.
The pumpkin spice latte one is always the best. Like,
Were you guys
the spice from our Lord and Savior. Give us the pumpkin. And they just play the death metal music in the background.
But yeah, it'll be interesting. I think I'm excited to see the new meta report this weekend from from you, Brad, the mayor, to see what
if anyone shows up to any leagues with any legal decks, it's gonna still all be Hiram goodbyes. But
Yeah.
Know what I heard? Know what I heard is
What?
that well, I already mentioned the collector store only had 5 people Tuesday night. It could be for a myriad of reasons, but red sapphire ruby. Justin slotted in nothing to hide as a 1-cost cantrip for that draw there because he doesn't have
Anything else?
that doesn't.
Popsicle.
Well, he does. Popsicle's still there, but he doesn't have Hiram. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was like, he didn't lose Fortis. What am I talking about? But I was like, I forgot about that card. And hand knowledge is extremely, I think, underappreciated in this game. But
all right,
yeah.
I got a hot take. When we finally get the Sapphire Sphere, if you play this card, you can then play Hiram again.
The Sapphire Sphere. The Sapphire Sphere is tap. It comes into play exerted, and it's tap. Pay 1, banish another item you control, and draw 2 cards. It's just a different Hiram. It's item Hiram.
All right. Well, we have gone really long, so we should probably
Yeah.
get into the villain of the week, unless you guys got any other things for the decks. I mean, I think we're still up in the air here, and we'll probably talk more about this next week.
Yeah, we'll definitely talk more about it. I do.
It's too soon. It happened yesterday. It's too soon to really determine what's going to happen. The meta report. Sorry, Andy, I cut you off. The meta report so far, even before, I guess I should include Tuesday as well. Everything I have so far is not Sapphire Steel, Sapphire Ruby. Like it has been for the last several weeks. And Sunday Jimmy I think did the Birds deck, and that Andy was just talking about and 3-0'd with it to show that it's a viable deck. So, but yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that people are gonna be desperate to draw cards. But Steel is, I think, still gonna be really, really strong. Because Steel offers the most, low cost, consistent, good value removal, and not non-interactive ability, if that's a word. The Cindy, the Diablo, being able to just sing Strength of Raging Fire or let the store rage on turn 2 is just broken. And the more you can do that, the more you can control the game and just run away with it. So we're gonna see a lot of that. Be prepared.
I agree.
We'll see a lot of that too. Actually, Be Prepared is definitely coming back in the meta.
Be prepared to be the best card in the game,
What?
as voted by the Rules of Villainy listeners.
The
runner up being Hiram Flaversham.
I was gonna say,
And it's funny.
even if it had lost, it now would have been by default due to disqualification. Pass down winner. Who is second place now?
I don't know, but anyway, this week's villain of the week. Apologies to Gantu. Set to Hiram Flaversham, Toymaker. 4-cost inkable in Sapphire, 1 strength, 6 willpower, Storyborn Inventor, quests for 1 lore. Its ability is Artificer. When you play this character, and whenever he quests, you may banish 1 of your items to draw 2 cards. Flavor Texas, his creations are even more wondrous with the Illuminary's resources at his fingertips. The rare card, art by Leonardo Giammichele. Probably botched that.
Giammichele.
It's actually a wonder. I don't know how he wasn't villain of the week previously. I know several. Most of the time, our villain of the week is just the hottest card of the week. We might have some flavor or some spice in between, but Hiram has just been consistently. He's one of the few cards that we've purposefully, maybe not purposefully, but we never used because he was just so
obvious.
Prominent in obvious pick for villain of the week, right?
So he is. So obviously we've talked ad nauseum about this card, this podcast. But my question is, do we do like
Galactic Council Chamber?
NFL
Errata
rules
or
whatever?
No.
This is the first card that's out of the game that we've had as villain of the week, and that's primarily why he's also villain of the week. But does he get? Do we add him to the Hall of Fame for villains? Do we add him to the Rules of Villainy Villain Hall of Fame?
Look,
I mean, he certainly got the credentials for it.
Look, we
Is
have
he our first pick? Is he our first pick in the Hall of Fame?
I'll just say this: we have a weird dynamic here where we're not actually very villainous, and so this might not make entirely sense, but typically, villains like idolize villainy, right? So like you're trying to be that cool kid on the playground, and someone like sticks their gum under the table, like that's so cool. They vandalized something, like they're so cool. Hiram, he's been to jail, right? He's been banned, like that's so bad, right? Like Hiram is the villain. He might just be a storyborn inventor, but I think he deserves a spot on the Villain Hall of Fame because he's a villain in our heart.
I think so too.
Yeah, imagine going through, as I just previously alluded to, the entirety of our March Madness bracket, running up, being the runner-up to the entire thing in a very contested final act, being as contentious as he was throughout his introduction in set 2 all the way until now. He finally makes it on Villain of the Week because he's banned from the game. That's like infamy to its core, man.
It really is.
He's got my vote too, for sure.
That's a unanimous. We've got our first Hall of Famer Rules of Villainy card. Hiram Flaversham Toymaker. Congratulations, man. Congratulations. Honestly, that makes me feel better about the whole band now that we put him in our Hall of Fame.
It's crazy too, right? Because like the Rules of Villainy wasn't our first villain, Bucky. Wasn't
yes,
he was
the whole thing started
errata,
because of Bucky.
And now the whole thing ends on Hiram being banned. Well, that was a good last episode, everyone. See you later. I'm kidding. I'm joking.
But one thing I will just point out though about this artist, so prolific. You've got 44 total, but 12 of them are collab.
Save 40 for the rest of us, bro.
The Shere Khan Enchanted was not
my
his.
goodness.
The Shere Khan Enchanted wasn't his?
No, it was only listed because the other Shere Khan was listed.
Okay. So 33. So he did a Shere Khan. He did then along came Zeus Enchanted.
Yeah.
Tamatoa. So Shiny, Let the Storm Rage On, Vision of the Future, Lucky Dime, Merlin Goat, Brawl, and our favorite, Potato Captain.
He did the Potato Captain?
He did the Potato Captain.
That's good.
Yeah, he's got a lot of collaborations. There's a lot of solo work when you look him up in Dreamborn, but then if you look up by just his last name, it brings up 12 more cards that he was involved in. I don't know if it was the lining or the coloring or what, but yeah, really, like Vince said, prolific artist within the game here, and I don't see that changing anytime soon because it's all fantastic. The legendary Mickey from this set.
Yeah. I dare say we may have not seen the last card banned by this artist.
Oh, yeah, maybe. Some of these are pretty good cards, like Donald Duck, Not Again, exclamation point. The 1/5 cost, 1/5 evasive. This character gets 1 lore for each 1 damage on him.
Burn it!
I mean, at best, this card is clearly 5 cost 1/1 that quests for 4.
Let's be real. He's talking about the set 1's 6-drop Lady Tremaine that we've talked about multiple times on this podcast.
That is
just power crept by the Maui Half Shark.
Absolutely.
We had this conversation that it didn't really get power crept, but
I mean, like, yeah, do you love Maui Half Shark? Do you love challenging and getting actions back? Well, what if you could do that the moment you played the character, and like also have like 6 stat points less of stats? Let's
not go on a tangent about it, but like she could be in a good Baja Blast deck, I bet, or a Baja Blast deck. I don't want to start off as good yet, but it could get there. But the 2 cards he's talking about is Lucky Diamond Tamatoa for sure, as potential
Goat.
Hall of Famer.
Goat.
I was going to say Goat too. Goat is up there.
Yeah.
I'm sure there are folks out there being like Vision too. Just ban every card.
Yeah. This card beat me last week. It's got to go.
It's got to go. That's going to be the next meme. Anything else? All right.
Say our final farewells to Hiram. Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
You made plenty of toys. You ate plenty of popsicles and metal balls, but
a moment of silence for our boy.
Okay, moment of silence over.
Yeah,
We can't have dead air. We can't have dead air.
Yeah,
Let's go.
riveting podcast content.
I know. So we're now on our outro. So let us know your thoughts on the whole band situation. I was going to say the villain of the week, but he's like I said, villain in our hearts, and he's now the first Hall of Famer. But others, we hope you've enjoyed this long episode. As always, we're not known for being short, so we appreciate you being here. And if you're joining us on audio, please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen. Pandora, apparently.
Yeah, we're on Pandora now. We're not short, but we are sweet. So if you enjoy what's going on here, come hang out with us on YouTube. It's like the same as the podcast, but like even better. So
yeah, visually.
Yeah, you get that visualizer. It's like Winamp. But see there, look, we lost the Gen Z again. Like, subscribe, ring the bell. We do like a ton of stuff these days, so you really probably should ring the bell because we're gonna forget to tell you that we're doing it, and we're just gonna do it, and like you'll miss out. And these are like limited time drops of awesome information, so be there.
Yeah, because we got Deck Tech Tuesday, and we got the mayor's report, and sometimes the mayor just reports on news.
Yep, we got breaking news. The mayor.
Sometimes I do deck review videos that I'm playing or decks that I find interesting, and if something's interesting, I'm just spending more time in here creating more content to grow the channel because we love doing this and we hope that you enjoy it as much as we do. And so we're going to continue doing it. And we understand your time is valuable, so we appreciate you spending it a little bit with us. If you would like to follow along as we plot our devious plans, consider following us on our socials. We're on Instagram, Blue Sky, and the platform formerly known as Twitter @RulesOfVillainy. We also have a growing community Discord in which you could join with the link below and be the 100th member if we haven't got it. We're at 99 right now. If we haven't got it by Friday. Yep, we got our 99th tonight. And I'm really excited to hit 100. So that could be you.
And wait, that's no outro. Pete, no outro. Hold on. I forgot this last week. I won't forget it again. partner.tcgplayer.com/ROV. If you need to buy singles for your new deck because you invested all of your money in Hiram, Flaversham, and all of the Sapphire decks, and now you're financially ruined because of it, fear not. We actually won't save you any money, but you should use our partner link because it helps this podcast get some much needed funds for more content for you guys. Okay, continue. Next turn.
No,
actually off.
Yeah, we really appreciate your support. But until next week, stay safe, fellow villains. Be wary of wannabe heroes who want to disrupt your villainous plans. And as always, remember the rules of villainy.
Hiram lives on in our hearts, but not our decks.